Hello everyone and welcome to the most requested game that was played yesterday. It is Jan-Krzysztof Duda versus Benjamin Bok from the Champions Chess Tour 2025. It is an Armageddon game, and usually I'm not a fan of showing Armageddon games because, well, it's more about the match than about the game, and, if you just need a draw with the black pieces and you win the match like that, I mean, it's not something that you will show. Okay, of course you will show it if Magnus is playing Hikaru, but yeah, more often than not, I'm not a fan. But this game, it's it has everything. You guys will love it, and no wonder so many of you have suggested it. Duda does not need any introduction. Neither does Benjamin. I think he's very well known in the chess world through his play and also through his online presence. He streams on pretty much all of the platforms, and nowadays I think he's Dutch number 5 or number 6, but at the peak of his rating, he was in 2022. He was world Dutch number 2, only behind the great Anish Giri, and he was ranked number 50 in the world. So he is incredibly strong, and that makes this game all the more enjoyable to watch. So let's check it out. Duda has the white pieces, and he opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, knight f3. Knight f3, we have knight to c6, bishop to c4, and bishop to c5. And now, I know what you guys would very much enjoy, but no, we don't have that. We have castles kingside, continuing with the Giuoco Piano. We have knight to f6, rook to e1, and pawn to d6. We have pawn to c3 and castles kingside. And, okay, there are still quite a few top level games with this exact same position. Pawn to d4 and pawn to h3 are the most played moves here, but we have bishop to b3 by Duda. Now, not a lot of games at all in the database. We have pawn to a6 and pawn to d4. Bishop to e7, we have pawn to h3, pawn to h6, and bishop to e3. So some fairly standard Giuoco Piano moves. Rook to e8, and now there is a game between Gavin Wall and Stuart Haslinger that was played in 2001, that's 14 years ago, where d captures on e5 was played. And d captures on e5 is the second top move recommended by the engine. The move that Duda plays, knight b to d2, is the top move, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So, okay, e captures on d4, and now you think, okay, c captures on d4 is pretty much an automatic, and then you give up d4 pawn, pretty much, again, the usual stuff. But no, bishop captures on d4. Duda gives up the bishop to maintain the strong center, and this is already very weird, territory. Captures, we have pawn to b5 and queen to c2. Just nicely continuing development and enjoying the strong center. We have bishop to b7. Benjamin unleashes the bishop pair. Now Duda has to be very careful, obviously. Rook a to d1 and pawn to c5, challenging the center. If you can do this, why not? D captures, we have D captures on c5, and now, unfortunately for Duda, there are no good discoveries, but there is pawn to e5, freeing up the e4 square for the knight. We have knight to d5, and now you kind of want to play knight to e4, but what about pawn to c4? Does this just, win the bishop? Well, seemingly it does, but Duda does not go queen to e4 or even bishop captures on d5. Duda just continues with his plan, knight to e4, and he invites pawn to c4. So what is Duda planning here? Well, Duda's plan, for one, as he started with less time, and this is an Armageddon game, he has to win. If he draws, then Benjamin wins the match. So pawn to c4. Okay, this is definitely the best move. You're not gonna miss out on a free bishop. Knight to d6, attacking the rook and the bishop, and just c captures on b3. And indeed, should Duda continue with knight captures on b7, it seems like, okay, both of you will get the other one's queen, but after captures and captures, there's also captures on d1, where you get a queen, and then after rook captures, just rook a captures on d8, and now if you count the pieces, Benjamin would just be up a rook and the bishop. So, okay, chances are this was not Duda's plan. So Duda plays queen captures on b3, ready to put pressure on that f7 pawn, and now, well, if I gave you, again, I'm not going to say 1,000 years, but if I gave you a lot of time, chances are you would make a mistake in this position, and so does Benjamin. He played queen to b6, which is the third top move recommended by the engine, but one that allows Duda some very creative play. The move you have to play here, and I will show this, of course, for your viewing pleasure, is rook captures on e5. You just remove the defender of the knight, and that's it. And now you have to play rook captures on e5, and then, okay, queen captures on d6, and it's Very much a playable position. But point is, if you now continue with knight captures on b7, then you just play rook captures on e1, rook captures, bishop captures on f2 with check, nicely positioning the king for a nice check so the queen can pick up the knight, captures queen b6 check, king wherever, queen captures on b7, and this is the resulting position where, after all is said and done, black would just be up a pawn. And okay, maybe it's not winning, but you know, chances are you will have your chances during the game. So after queen captures on b3, this is the move you have to play. In the game, Benjamin played queen to b6, which, you know, seems like it's even more impressive. But now Duda just plays rook captures on d5. He invites queen captures on f2, and he also allows bishop captures on d5. So what do you play here? You have to play bishop captures on d5, and this is pretty much the last big line I'm going to show you for this game, because this is where everything gets unraveled. In the game, queen captures on f2 was played. Bishop captures on d5 is a must here, because after queen captures and, well, whatever you play, let's say rook to f8, queen captures on f2 isn't all that impressive, rook to f2, rook to f8, and the only way to defend this knight captures, you cannot capture due to queen captures on a8, is to play queen to c5, you offer a queen trade, and now after knight captures on h6, delivering a double check, king to h7, queen captures on c5, and bishop captures, you'll just go back, knight to g4, and now, okay, king g8, and you will suffer through this position. You're down 3 pawns, but you're up the exchange, so it is white who will be pushing here, but you're not dead lost. After rook captures on d5, Benjamin played queen captures on f2 check, king to h1, and now bishop captures on d5, so it seems like it's the same thing, only with, you know, queen capturing on f2. But it's not. Queen captures on d5, we have rook to f8, and now knight captures on f7. And now, if you want to continue, you have to play rook captures on f7. Allow queen captures on a8 with check, and after rook to f8, okay, queen d5 check, king to h8, and now there are some tactics like rook captures followed by queen captures. You're going to move the rook, and white will now push the passed pawn. It's going to be hard for black, but maybe you can survive. However, after knight captures on f7, king to h7 was played, and now Duda is completely winning, and he delivers it very nicely. Queen to e4 with check, king to g8, and now knight captures on h6 with check. Doesn't matter what you play. If you don't take the knight, king h8, knight to f7 check again, and if you don't take again, then you're going to just play knight 7 to g5. You defend the knight, you're going queen h7, and that's it. Black resigns here. So after knight captures, g captures was played, and now Duda gets the queen into the game. Queen to g6 with check, king to h8, queen captures, king to g8, and now not repeating, of course, with queen to g6, but the rook to e4. The rook, the merry rook enters the you know the fun, and rook to g4 is now coming. So what can you do? Absolutely nothing. You have to give up the queen. Queen g3. Rook to g4 check, queen captures, a captures, and now rook to f7. It's still not over. It's still 2 rooks versus the queen, but the 2 advanced passed pawns plus the knight here so close to the black king, it's only a matter of how Duda gets the job done. Plus he has 6 minutes to Benjamin's 2. Let's see how Duda played it. Queen g6 check, we have rook to g7, queen to e6 with check, king h8, and now king to h2. First find some safety for the white king, and only then advance the pawn to victory. We have rook to f8, getting the rooks into the game, king to g3, and now bishop to e3, hoping to get maybe some tricks in with bishop to f4 check, or maybe something, but you know, it just isn't there. We have pawn to b4, even stopping any counterplay on the queen side. Bishop to f4 check, we have king to f2, and now rook to c7, trying to get some checks in from behind. Queen to g6, and now rook to c3. We have pawn to e6, the passed pawn now starts marching forward. Bishop to e3 with check, king g3, bishop f4 check, and even king to h4. You don't have to worry about anything here. Rook to c7 now trying to go in this way, but pawn to g5, just freeing up the g4 square for the white king. And as it's a light square, you know, it's going to be even more safe than the other squares. So rook to g7 going after the white queen. Queen to e4, and now bishop to d6, stopping that pawn from reaching e7. We have knight to e5, and now bishop to e7. Yeah, you could stop knight g6 check with something like bishop captures, but I mean, what do you do? the two rooks can counter a queen, but with the two passed pawns, it's still a lost position. So after knight e5, bishop to e7 was played, one last attempt, but now, okay, Duda will just take the free material, rook captures, queen captures, and pawn to a5. And here Duda even just plays b captures on a5, probably playing against Benjamin's time, as you can also just play king h5, and okay, king h6 and checkmate the black king, but Duda doesn't even want to calculate. He just plays b captures on a5. He says, I cannot lose this, you know, I'm just gonna take everything. Pawn to b4, we have pawn to a6, pawn to b3, and only now queen h6 check, king to g8, and again Duda does everything except, you know, trying to calculate it out. He even gives up the queen. Bishop captures, a captures on b3, and now we have this position that I'm probably going to use for the thumbnail. 5 pawns versus the bishop. Can Duda win this? Most certainly, yes, he can. Bishop to c5, pawn to g6, we have king to g7, pawn to a7. You have to give up the a7 pawn to win the e7 square. Bishop captures, pawn to e7. Now the king is completely locked out of the game, as the two pawns create a wall against the black king. So if you capture, then the pawn just promotes, and you cannot stop that. Bishop to f2 check was played. King to g4 by Duda, and he was in this position on move 55 that Benjamin Bok resigned to the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So yeah, beautifully played by the Polish fighter. Polish fighter is his handle on chess.com, and maybe on Lichess. I don't know if he's also there. So far, you know, Duda's always played incredible chess, but this game, I'm definitely up for the handle. Polish fighter, as this was a fighting game. I mean, straight from the start, straight from not going for c captures on d4, but rather, you know, here just going bishop captures on d4, giving up your bishop pair like this. I mean, that was incredibly impressive, even though objectively we all know that the engine even says it's an inaccuracy, but he got a game, he was able to play, and that's, you know, sometimes that's all you need in Armageddon, you know, prevent black from going into very well-known territory where he can just hold a draw against, you know, arguably a stronger player. But yeah, just bishop captures on d4, and, you know, play chess. That's what Duda played here. So yeah, definitely deserved, you know, Polish fighter, very nice. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for recommending such a beautiful fighting game. I would like to thank Douglas Van Banhuisen, Samuel Kamuli, Nidhi Kumar, Marcus Shib, and Mariusz Klimek, who also suggested this game, amongst others. So thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, I would like to, thank everyone. And yeah, messed that up. Sorry about that. But yeah, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. Check out the 2 previous videos. See you soon.